23 is on two-step equations and inequalities. Basically, all that to say is we're going one step above something like this. 2x plus 4 equals 20, okay? Or actually, what up to this point, you've done something like this. 2x equals 20, and you have to figure out what x is. Okay, this lesson is you're learning how to then also add another part, okay? Equals 35. So far you used to do just that. You're used to working with something like this. 2x equals 36. And we would figure out what x is, okay? Now it's two steps. Why? Because you're taking two steps, okay? So what we're trying to do is, remember how I told you in the last, I don't know, few lessons, anytime we're dealing with equations algebraically, we're trying to get the x by itself, right? In order to find out what it is. Okay, so I want this whole thing on one side, and everything else I want to move to the other side of the equal sign. Yes? Okay, not yet. You can figure it out sometimes when they're easier like this, you can, but I'm going to show you the mathematical way of how to do this, okay? So what we want to do is move the rest of the stuff over here so that we can kind of get x by itself. We haven't completely gotten x by itself, but we will. So what did I tell you happens when we move it across the equal signs? It changes. If it was plus, it's going to be minus, or positive, it's going to be negative. If it's dividing, you're going to multiply, things like that. So right now this says plus 5. So if I move it over here, it's going to become minus 5. Very good. So we got rid of that. Now the new equation says this. 2x equals 35 minus 5. 35 minus 5 is 30. And now it becomes a problem that you're used to looking at, okay? But we had to take the first step, and now we're going to take the second step, two-step problems. Okay, how am I going to discover this? 30 divided by 2, and x equals 15. Okay, everybody understand how we did that? So we're not just doing, we're not just doing one step, we're taking two steps because we have an extra nomial in there, okay? Oh, thank you. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to look at today, but I wanted y'all to be able to see. Okay, let's try another one. This one says 0.4x plus 1.2 equals 6. Okay, based on what I shared with you, what are we trying to do? Get the x part by itself, and then that means I have to get rid of this. In order to get rid of that, what do? We're going to move it across the equal sign, and when we move it across the equal sign, what happens to plus 1.2? It becomes minus 1.2. Very good. So that gets rid of that, and now our new equation looks like this. 0.4x equals 6 minus 1.2. Okay, let's go on and do that. 6.0 minus 1.2. Do not forget just the even basics of this and making sure your decimals are lined up. Okay, even people can just easily forget that. So if I do this, I'm going to end up getting 4.8. Did everybody get that? 6.0 minus 1.2 should have gotten 4.8. So now 6 minus 1.2 is 4.8. And now it becomes a problem that you're used to. 0.4x equals 4.8. What would I do to answer this? 4.8?
Where did you get the 4.8 again?
6 minus 1.2. See?
But it was.
No, it was plus. And I moved it over here and it became minus. Okay? So 6 minus 1.2 is over here, and we end up getting 4.8. You see that, darling?
Yes. Yes. No, I understand.
Okay. So now we're going to take this 4.8 and divide it by 0.4. Okay? But what needs to happen first?
You need to move the decimal.
I need to move the decimal. This one moves here, and this one moves here. Good, I'm gonna bring my decimal up. 4 goes into 4 one time. Subtract, bring down the 8. 4 goes into 8 2 times. What is my final answer? Very good. 12x equals 12.
That wasn't too hard.
Not too bad, huh? Okay.
Does it get harder?
Not necessarily. They just start adding like fractions in there and stuff like that. Let's try one that's a fraction. Let's try one that's a fraction. Okay. Negative 2/3 x. Negative 2/3 x minus 1/2 equals 1/3. Okay? Step number 1 is to do what?
Move it over.
We want to get the x part to itself. So since this says minus 1/2, it's going to become, I'm going to move it over here, and it's going to become plus 1/2. Very good. So that's erased. Okay, so now we have to do 1/3 plus 1/2. 1/3 plus 1/2 means we have to find a common denominator. I would say 6, very good. 2 times 3 is 6, 1 times 3 is 3, and then 3 times 2 is 6, and 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, so my new fraction, when I'm adding it, is 2/6 plus 3/6, which is going to give us 5/6. So everybody got that so far? Am I moving too fast? Okay, so I have 5/6, so that's my answer right here. So I'm going to want to erase that. 5/6. Okay? Now, the equation now says negative 2/3 x equals 5/6. Okay, what does this mean? It's multiplication. I'm saying negative 2/3 times x equals 5/6. Okay? If I am going to get my x by itself, I have times negative 2/3. So if I want to move it across the equal sign, since it says times negative 2/3,
It's going to be a positive.
it's going to be, no, you only change your divided by, multiply, add, or subtract.
But either way, it would be a multiplication problem.
It's, well, eventually it will be.
Yeah.
Okay, but right now, since it says times negative 2/3, I'm going to divide by negative 2/3. Do y'all remember me drawing this line a little bit darker in previous lessons? Okay, so now I have 5/6 divided by negative 2/3. Okay, how should I write this out now? Horizontally. 5/6 divided by negative 2/3. Now, does everybody remember that this is not negative 2 and then we have thirds? And this is not negative 3 and we just have a 2. This is the whole number, negative 2/3. Okay, you have to see this as a number, a whole number. Okay? Now, what do I do?
Change that to multiplication.
Yes, change the, yes, to times. And it changes this number to the right from 2/3 to 3/2. Right? Okay? And just in your brain, I have a positive number and I have a negative number. And when I am multiplying a positive number and a negative number, the answer is going to be negative. So then, now we just do this. 5 times 3, 15. 6 times 2, 12. And will that reduce? 3 will go into both of them. 3 will go into 15 5 times. 3 will go into 12 4 times. Thank you, I went blank. So it's negative 5/4. But remember how I told you that the book just starts leaving it like that now? It just leaves it. But what would it be if it was a mixed number? Negative 1 and 1/4. Okay? And I want you to do both. Everybody feel like they got it? Understand it? Pretty good? Okay. I mean, I kind of moved fast. Some of it was learning that we already knew, but some of it was a little bit new. Okay? All right. I'm going to show you one more only because they want you to graph things. Okay? So one of them will say something like this. Most of them will just say solve. This one says solve this inequality and graph its solution. Okay, so here's what it's going to look like. 2x minus 5 is greater than or equal to 1. Okay, when you're looking at this, when you're thinking in terms of equations, you just got to see this as an equal sign, just for now, okay? It's not an equal sign, I know that, but you have to see it the same as an equal sign, okay? So again, what is my very first step? Okay, I want to move the -5 over because I want this by itself. So I have -5, so when I move it over, it becomes +5. Okay? So then that says 2x greater than or equal to 1 plus 5 is 6. Okay? And then how would I get 6? We quickly, hopefully you can see that it's going to be 3. 2 times what equals 6? X is greater than or equal to 3. Does everybody see how I got that? Am I moving too fast?
Where'd you get the 3?
I just took, since it says 2 times x, then I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2. So x will be greater than or equal to 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So this is my answer. X is greater than or equal to 3. But now they want me to graph it, okay? So let's do that. Okay, so if I'm going to do this, I have x is greater than 3, but I also have x is equal to 3. Do y'all remember how to see this? It's not just greater than, but it's also equal to.
How'd you get the 3?
Okay, this said 2x is greater than or equal to 6. Have you gotten that far? Okay, now what this says right here is we're trying to get the x by itself. So because this says 2 times what equals 6, well, it's not really equal, but you have to see it like that at first. 2 times what equals 6? We know that x is going to be 3. So then you'd say x is equal to 3, but we're not using equal, we're using that. You see what I'm saying? You kind of just have to see it as an equal until the very end. Okay, just because that's how your brain's kind of been working. So this is our answer, and now we have to graph it. But it's not just x is greater than 3, it's x is equal to 3. So I'm going to go in and put in an equal. Y'all remember that you're supposed to fill it in because it's equal? Okay? And if I'm going to show x is greater than 3, which way am I going to go with my arrow? To the right, because it's greater than 3.
So you have to divide it by 2 to get 3?
Divide 6 by 2 to get 3.
Because you have to both put them on the 2.
Yes. Okay, and so let me show you this real quick. We can still move under the same influence or concept of, since this says 2 times x, I want to get the x by itself. So since this says times 2, if I move it across the equal, it's going to be divided by 2. Remember that? We just had to take 2 steps and move things across, okay? So now it's 6 divided by 2, which is 3, okay? Feel like you got it? Okay, and then when we graphed it, it's not just x is greater than 3. I'm graphing what x is. It's greater than 3, but it's also equal to 3. So that's why I filled it in. Okay? Anybody have any questions? Did it make sense? Basically, all you have to know is that you're going to have to move things across the equal sign. And in order to get x by itself, and then you have to do the inverse operation. So if it's adding, you're going to subtract it. If it's multiplying, you're going to divide it to move it across. Everybody understand? Okay. We'll do some of those lesson practices in class and see how y'all are doing, okay? That's lesson 93.
How long have you been recording your lesson? Have you always done that?